redistribution of population. And population is going to move to certain countries more than others, and Australia is one of those. There's already discussion in the United States. We've had all this Mexican illegal migration to the United States, problem, build fences, etc. Now they're looking at it in a much more radical way. Why not just open the border and have an open labour market with Canada and Mexico, like Australia has an open labour market with New Zealand. This is in serious discussion in the US at present. We need to be vigilant in continuing to bring population growth under control in countries with high birth rates. I'm talking here primarily about Australia, but in the discussion later on, if you want to talk about world population, I'm happy to do that. This is, you can take the age group 15 to 24. It's a kind of indicator of the labour force entry ages. Okay, that's the ages at which people are entering the labour force, essentially. And this is what happens, this is the United Nations projections, to the labour force entry ages between 2000 and 2050. One of them grows, one of them and only one of them, grows very substantially. And that's the first one, the United States. So it's not what we normally think. You're thinking India, China, etc. No. The big growth in labour force entry ages is going to be in the USA. Japan, huge fall, less than 50% of what it is in 2000. China, also less than 50% of what it is now. That's the legacy of the one-child policy. One-child policy has its impact on future labour supply. China will be, you'll see China in the relatively near future abolish the one-child policy. They'll have a two-child policy, and that's not going to work. And in 10 years' time, China will be a pro-natalist country. They'll be paying people to have births. Wait for it. Europe, including Russia, also a huge decline in the labour force entry ages. Those are the countries that are in a lot more trouble than we are. But India, huge population growth, but in this age group, the labour market entry ages by that time, not much growth at all going on. Australia and New Zealand, now I think that Australia's population will grow faster than these projections, but just a 500,000 increase in the labour market entry ages. But next door to us, Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, over 1 million. So those little islands, Pacific Islands, the labour force entry ages are going to grow much more than the labour market entry ages in Australia and New Zealand. That's because they have high birth rates, and in lots of those countries, they need to bring those birth rates under control, but a lot of that's in this, that's presumed in these projections. Indonesia also very flat. There's fierce competition between industries within Australia. The construction workers, mining, housing and offices, infrastructure. We do work for the Australian Armed Forces, and they say, well, where are we going to get our foot soldiers from in the future? And we say, we don't know. You're much better, you're going to get 3, 4, 5 times the salary levels working in the mining industry. So why would you be fool enough to join the army and be a private? There's fierce competition between states and territories for international migrants. These are some of the driving forces that are very difficult to control. We've opened up our international migration scene to competition between the states. The federal government puts on expos around the world, but the states go to them. And the states are very, very aggressive in recruiting immigrants. And the two most aggressive are South Australia and Western Australia in the most recent years. And if you look at the numbers going to those states, they've been successful. New South Wales' share of international migrants has dropped from 42% to 32% in a few years because of competition from these other states. We can improve our productivity and we can raise labour force participation rates somewhat, but it's inevitable that overseas migration to Australia will remain high and the population will grow by 2050 to something in excess of 30 million people. In comparative terms, this will be much lower than the population of California at that time, and the population of the USA will be around 440 million people. Canada's population will be over 50 million. So in conclusion, Australia will be a better country in its economic, environmental and social dimensions if we accept the inevitable and plan for it. Not planning properly for population growth is part of the Australian way of mucking things up. That's our history. The present Australian government seems to have accepted this message, that because of the planning processes they've already put in place, it set up the Infrastructure Council, and my educated bet is that it will increase the official migrant intake in the May budget. Thank you.